So, hey, welcome everybody. And today we've got, as you can see by the screen right now, is we've got some wonderful guests with us. And the reason why is these folks have got a foot inside our industry and a foot outside our industry. So I really wanted to take and be able to have them share some input. So I've got some questions for them. Now, before we do that, what you guys didn't all see was that I'm going to run through, we're going to finish chapter 1 real quick, and it's going to take us a couple minutes. And that will kind of stir in some of the conversations, the questions that I want to ask you. So with that, let's go ahead and go over. I'm going to hit on here, and let's come into here. Is big pictures. All, again, the panelists right now is these people are seeing stuff. Us guys, we see stuff from the top of the trees. We're nap of the earth. But some of these software people, they've been out and they've seen things from the moon, man. They're looking back at the earth, and they've seen a bigger picture than what us within detailing have been locked in for so long. So I really wanted to get them involved, and I'm really excited about it, as you can tell. I think I've had too much coffee, so I'm talking real fast. So with that is that our guest, who are they? So I would take and love to have each one of them just give a 1-minute introduction. So we'll go in. Jody, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit of something about you, but start out with something personal, each one of you, something fun.
So my name is Jody Sedrick. I am the dad of 6 kids, 4 that Judy and I had and 2 that we adopted from Haiti. And I am an avid water skier, water wakeboarder, anything with water, diver, I'm all in.
Wow. Hey, do you want a couple more kids?
No. No.
Oh, okay. Good. Okay. So Michael, you're up next.
All right, I'm Michael Abens, and I am a car enthusiast and father of 2. So the thing I like doing most these days, I jacked up my back, and I had to kind of move away from golf. So that got me into tracking my cars. So I've been a track rat for many years at this point.
That's a lot better hobby, if you ask me.
I agree. You never have a bad day on the track as long as you don't hit the wall.
A golf club, the last time I played a golf club's nice and straight, right? Ideally. And Diane, when I came home, she had known the attempt of trying to learn how to golf when I came home, and most of my clubs were no longer straight. Extremely competitive, and golf's a lot harder when it looks. And
oh yeah,
I finally just said, that's enough. So cool. Hey Matt, how about you?
Yeah, hey there. My name's Matt McAllister, calling in from San Francisco, California. I am a retired college athlete who loves playing sand volleyball for as long as my back will let me. Unfortunately, Michael, my back is going the same path, so we'll see how long that lasts.
I love that. I love that. Cool. So, Rod, how about you?
I'm Rod Puzey. I am a recovering mechanic for the past 40 years. I am deeply involved in cars. That's probably no secret. Everybody knows that. Probably the thing you don't know about me, even you, Renny, is that I am the tightest human on the planet when it comes to money. Jody calls me Scrooge McDuck. So this is an interesting opportunity for me because there's a lot of the side of me that people don't see that we get to share with everybody during this full time.
I love it. So last but not least, the beauty of the group, Kris.
Hi guys, I'm Kris Abens, daughter of Michael, and I actually have a fun anecdote to share. Yesterday was my roommate's birthday, and because we're all on quarantine and we didn't get to go out and do what we would normally do for his birthday, I actually recreated the restaurant that we would go to for breakfast in my kitchen. Wow. So I made what we would normally eat there. I made the sign for the restaurant when you walk into my kitchen. So I was very happy about that. And that was a super fun little project.
That's cool. I can see you right now with your tongue sticking out, drawing plans,
Yeah, that was me until about 2 in the morning the other night, making that freaking sign.
So, hey, we're going to start at the bottom and work our way back up. Question for y'all. What positive impact has the coronavirus had on your life? There's got to be something good out of this. So, Kris, we're going to start with you.
For sure. And I love this question. So something for me, this has been kind of a fun opportunity to reflect back on my childhood. which I'm the youngest person here probably. But my childhood,
20 years ago. You know, I mean, come on.
Listen, it was 10 years ago.
Okay. I got shoes.
No, but I had a very idyllic childhood and grew up in a neighborhood with a bunch of other kids my age, and we were always outside playing and, making up games and, playing sports. And now that, that's kind of what everybody has to do. It's really been fun to see how that's been happening. All the kids are outside in the neighborhood. Like, you hear people outside now, and like, you never had that, the past several years. And then it's been fun, for me, like me and my roommate, he's actually one of my neighbors that we grew up with. So he and I will go outside and we'll have a pass, like a lacrosse pass, or, throw a football around or whatever we're going to do. And it's been really fun just to kind of get back to, the basics of like childhood.
Isn't that cool? I like that. Michael, how about you?
For me, it's really been a reflection kind of thing as well. And I'm a really positive person just kind of by nature. I tend to really be an optimist. So when I'm looking at this whole thing, I'm just hoping that people start focusing on all our similarities versus our differences as a human race.
Amen.
I mean, we're all experiencing this shared experience at a global level. And I just hope people, come out of it with a bit more empathy for our fellow man.
I'd have to agree. Yeah, totally. So Jody, how about you?
Oh, me, yeah. I'm like Michael. I'm very optimistic. So I've actually enjoyed working remotely, but I've really enjoyed the time with my kids. So my youngest kids are 18, and so it's become who can come up with the coolest ideas. So we've done artwork, we've done building forts. I mean, it's like revisiting childhood all over again. And I'm a big kid, so I'm like, let's play. We've been doing dancing. Judy and I work out every morning anyway, so yeah, it's great.
That's cool. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, I think the most positive impact on my personal life has been the reminder of the power of checking in with people you care about. I think everyone on this call and likely listening in is so busy in their general day to day. We'll call our friend from college tomorrow, or we'll get to that next week. But just the power of sending a quick text that says, "Hey, how are you? You doing okay? Like, how are you doing here?" And I think the conversations that's led to, people I'm very close with, but might not always find the time to jump on a video call with. It's now forced us to check in on people we care about, which I think in fact I've gotten closer to some of those people over the past 3 weeks, even though I can't leave my house to go see them. So I think that's a habit that I want to continue on past this.
Well, let's hope that we can do that, right? Let's hope that we don't have a short memory on all this, because I think we've seen some ugly come out of this, but I think that as people just I push I can't remember what it's called on Facebook, where you can just kind of stall somebody for 30 days and not see them for a little while. So instead of deleting people, it's a sensitive time. So I just stopped kind of following them for a little while, let them calm down a little bit. So Rod, how about you?
So with me, I'm a pretty intense person. And the positive that's come out of this for me is realizing that things that are out of my control don't really bother me. I've been less impacted personally, emotionally by this, because it's completely out of our hands. I mean, this is it's nothing that anybody, did. It's nothing anybody can control. It doesn't matter what you do, you're not going to control it. So that really solidified that to me, that it's nothing I can control. And I think it brings about people prioritizing what really is important. Like Michael was stating, family and friends and being just a normal human and caring about other humans. It's not about, who has the fanciest this or the prettiest this. It's putting things into perspective, family and friends and health, and apparently binge watching shows about tigers. So I think that's the positive, is just having people reconnect, as Matt was mentioning. It's just reconnection and focusing on what is important.
No, I agree. This week I had a wake-up call this morning. So earlier in the week, I got a call that a lifetime friend of my mom, somebody I grew up with, was very close to the family. He suddenly died of different causes. It was a blow, I mean, he was healthy, he was happy, he was just at work on Saturday. And his daughter called me and gave me the news on Monday. That was a blow. On Tuesday, I get a call that my former or somebody that's really tied to me, Bill Bartelli, is a mentor of mine, somebody I'm really close to. I'm close to his family. I was married into the family for a long time. My ex-wife and I, we just got married too young. We're still really close, but her dad and mom are really important to me. And her dad's locked in a facility that has been exposed to the virus. So I get that call. Yesterday morning, I get a call that Joe Clark, one of my mentors that actually got me Air Force One, died of separate causes. And then last night, I get notification that a good friend of mine I grew up also died with nothing to do with this coronavirus. And so last night, I kind of went into a tailspin. And Rod, to your point, I went to bed and I said, listen, man, stop, drop, and roll. Don't let this keep you up at night. You're going to go crazy. You know, that was a bad week. And I woke up this morning, and the first thing I did to everybody else's point is I made a post and told everybody, if you're reading this, you're important to me. And thanks for being part of my journey. And, you know, I've been, Matt, to your point, I've been calling and texting everybody during this whole thing. But this morning, I got a little more serious about it. I got a little more serious about contacting those people that really, really are center point in my life that I grew up with. And I think that's important to do, is don't get your freaking panties wrapped around the axle on this thing, because it is what it is, and we just got to come out of it. So Great input all. So let's go ahead and now, chapter 1, I want to take, you guys are going to run through this with me real quick, and any add-ons, please let me know. But I want to finish up chapter 1. For you guys, the panelists, you might not know, is that 6-8 months ago, I told Kris I wanted to start going through my book online, of just going through it and just reading through chapter by chapter in a weekly program. And so we're doing this 3 times a week now. So I'm going through, I want to finish chapter 1 up, and some of the topics is a good time to start or expand. Right now is a great time to be planning. I mean, we don't know where this is going to go, but every day of my life right now, Kris and I talk, my wife and I talk, friends of mine talk, is I'm taking and looking at all the possibilities of how, what's the end plan to this? What's going to come out of this? My take is that we've probably, in different states, it's going to be reactive differently, but it doesn't matter, because the big states are going to control this. New York, California, Florida, Texas. Those are big populous states. They're going to kind of set the tone of how quickly or slowly we come out of this. I really think from all the viewpoints I've got is that we're probably looking at a mid-May to 1st of June kind of slow relaunch back into life as we know it. With that, I think that it's going to take a little bit of time for everything to spool back up. It's like an engine that's been running for forever, stopping. It's going to take a little bit, whether you're in a helicopter or an airplane, it takes a little bit of time to get those props moving. And so I think it's going to take a little bit of time for the airlines to get back into check, for people to be comfortable enough to travel, for them to get back into employment, for companies to open back up and receive their staff. But with that said, there's going to be a section of the population that has got money burning a hole in their pocket because they've been EMS, first responders, nurses, warehouse workers, store workers, all these different people, and the people that own those companies that have got ready cash available that we can take in and as businesses, soft stock. And what I mean after that is we're going to stock them a little bit, but we're going to stock them appropriately and not shove things down their throat. So I think it's a good time to be in your planning stage, in writing out everything, of knowing who you are, what you're not, cleaning up our businesses. We talked about Yancey yesterday. So let's go down the line again. So this time we'll start with Michael. Any input from that?
Dad, we can't hear you.
Uh-oh, he's got to mute himself. Well, Kris, we'll go to you, and we'll have Mike. We'll bring him up at the tail end. You open your mouth. That's you.
Okay. Well, I'm going to assume what my dad was going to say, and just, we've been talking about how this is a great time because, we now suddenly have so much time on our hands. This is a great time to get yourself organized for the future and take advantage of what you have control over now. So, organizing your data, making sure that everything is looking good. So then when you are back to operating, then, you're ready to go. And then, the things that you do have control over now, yes, lots of shops have had to shut down. Services aren't really happening, or they're at least greatly slowing down. But product sales is still a thing that you have control over. You can still send out products. So we've been really encouraging at least our users to focus on those things, the things that they do have control over, and things that will, set them up for success down the road.
I love it.
Hey, I'm back. Sorry about that. My phone intercepted my little microphone here. Sorry about that.
Oh, boy, I'll tell you. See, and you're a tech guy. Gosh, dang. What do you know?
So, my thing is, like right now, I agree 100% with you, Renny. Everybody should really be planning and thinking about, or I guess beginning with the end in mind. We are going to come out of this. It is, the uncertainty of the when that I think, freaks people out. But I'm a lot like, I think it was Rod, you were saying, you don't get too shook up over what you can't control. And I think that maybe comes a little bit with age and experience, because I don't either. I pretty much look at it and I just move on, and I start focusing on the things that I can control, within this uncontrollable situation. There's always something you can hang your hat on. So beginning with the end in mind and really preparing your business now for the recovery phase that is going to come. Right? You don't know when it's going to come, but man, right now is the gift of time that almost, none of us get, right? This is like a unique period in time. We get this huge gift of time to finally, focus on some of the details that maybe you just overlook because you're too busy.
I agree. Matt, you're up.
Yeah, I think once you get past the original shock of the current time we're in, there's true opportunity here. And we talk about this with our company almost on a daily basis. This is a win opportunity as well. What we're facing is consumer behavior will change in some form or fashion. If this lasts for another week, if this lasts for another 12 weeks, however long this lasts, this will shift how consumers act in some way. And in every recession, in every meaningful time when consumer behavior shifts, there are companies that absolutely take advantage of that, and they become the industry standard for the next 20 years. So I think once you can get past, yes, now is the time to start planning. Now is the time to dig deeply into financial forecasting and to understanding your trends. And we can happily walk us through that. I think all of us on this call are going to be great at that. But there's also, it's time to get creative. Like, how will consumer behavior change in a way that you could take advantage of the second that consumers are starting to act again? Your business probably shouldn't look the same as it has over the last 5 years. If it does, you're not taking advantage of shifts, and shifts are happening right now. And we as software companies are building for those shifts. Detailers absolutely have to take advantage. So get creative. What are consumers doing now that they'll likely continue doing? And how can you as a detailer, how can you as a company take advantage of consumer behavior and instead of taking one step at a time, which is the usual progression, take 6 steps when this turns around.
I like it. Rod, you're up.
Yeah, I think that it's interesting because what Michael's saying is true, and what Matt are saying, it's a unique time in that we have time to look at stuff. But Jody and I have been absolutely slammed. I've been putting on my counselor hat. We've been talking to every one of our customers, and I think exactly what Matt's saying is going to happen, because we're already seeing it. Some of our customers are actually increasing right now. We've had people that are automatically just switching their service offerings. And I think that's the biggest shift. If you remember back, Renny, 08, 09, you had somebody that did PDR, somebody else did wheels, somebody else did bumpers, and people started consolidating and expanding their service offerings. And I think that's what you're going to see is people they're going to reach out because they can't put all their eggs in one basket. I can't just be the paint correction guy. I've got to be able to do other stuff. There's a young couple in Florida that Jody and I met several years ago, and he's a detailer, but he also does commercial building pressure washing. And I'm thinking about that guy, and he is absolutely going to explode because his detailing side has shut down, but his cleaning of commercial buildings, when this is over, everybody's got the oogies. Everybody's going to want to clean everything. I mean, carpet cleaners, and I'm going to spray your patio, and I'm going to clean off your awnings, and any kind of sanitization and cleaning is going to become the forefront for the next little while. And it's not that detailing will go away. It's just that it's going to shift like it has over the past 10 years. It's just going to go in a different direction. And that's what I think we're seeing already is our customers are changing the way they're doing their offerings. We've got one really large customer, as you mentioned, Texas, he's actually shifting how he does stuff so that he can more meet the market, like you said, as soon as it comes out of it. And he's starting right now.
Oh, you have to. You have to. Okay, so Jody.
I would just say a big ditto. I think right now, whether you're a detail business, you're a software business, or any business, you have to look at what you're doing internally right now. And there are things that you can do internally to expand your business. And they may not necessarily bear the fruit today or next week, especially due to the situation we're in. But if you're able to build those building blocks, as things start to build out, you will be able to run that runway a lot faster than if you're just sitting in the background, watching Netflix all day. And so I think it's a real strategic opportunity for any business that if they look inward and they look at the things that they've been doing, they look at areas that they can either pivot or they can expand or they can enhance. And those things will really prepare them for what I think be an explosion of opportunity as we move into mid and late summer and into the fall.
There you go. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
So moving ahead, let's look at within your local market. What are you going to pay attention to in your local market right now? And for people that are expanding, is I look at market interest. A lot of people look at levels of cars. Is there a lot of Mercedes? I mean, the truck market's something that's completely ignored by most shops, unless you're in Texas or something like that. But here in Southern California, you go into LA, you can throw a rock and hit 20 lifted trucks that were $70,000 trucks with $25,000 or $30,000 of goodies hanging off of them. And so I don't just look at the upper end market. I look at the market as a whole. The other thing I look at is weak competition. I'm going to go through and I'm going to evaluate all the competition. I want to know how many are strong, how many are weak. If there's a strong person, a lot of people will say, well, I want to be like that, but I'm going to come in underneath them. I always, when we started up, I came in above that. I was a little more expensive than the next guy. And we launched that way, is that we came in the most expensive person. Why? Perceived value. Is that we are giving a better delivery, a better experience, and a better end product. The other thing is I look for I follow the money. I sniff the money out. I'm going to take and find out within each segment of where the people are that have disposable cash. What are their habits, and can I find them congregating? Are they most of the time people are of a herd mentality, meaning that they kind of take and hang out with their different social pockets and so forth and influences. But here's the deal: is they've got influence up and down a little bit within those pockets too. I love to kind of work my way in as a little spy in those little groups and take and have those people selling me. I don't want to have to sell myself. I want other people to sell me. And so I think it's a great time right now to go back exactly what all of this panel has just said and get a little more personal than what you're used to. I'm not saying turn down social media. I'm actually right now, I think it's a time to turn up social media. And I think it's time to spend a little advertising dollars because it's available and people are at home. So you might be able to get their attention more. And so 1 minute or less, let's go ahead and we're going to start with Jody again. What would you add to that? Looking at markets, what are you looking for in your market?
What am I from a detailer or from software?
From a business perspective, what are you looking for when you go into a market? If you guys are going to launch a new software into, let's say that you're going to support the landscapers, what are you paying attention to? What's on your idea board when you're looking at expansion?
That's a really good question because Rod and we've talked a lot about, the automotive detailing market is awesome. The auto recon in general is awesome, but there's so many opportunities, from a software standpoint outside of the automotive detailing world that we're actually already leveraged to do. And so Rod and I are actually looking at those markets and we're actually going to those markets and we're saying, all right, let me show you what we can do in our software and you tell me the gaps. what are the things that you need in your industry that I'm not able to address today? And then I can go back to Nerdvana and say, all right, guys, we need to add these features over the next couple months so that we can then attack it, midsummer.
Cool. So same question. We're going to go down. We'll go to Michael this time. So Michael, when you're kind of projecting, when you guys launched into this, what was your ideas? What would you suggest to detailers as they're looking into expanding their market or securing more trust and loyalty? What's some of the things that you look at being different from the competition?
Well, I mean, we came into this, with a really laser focus on just helping detailers. We could have picked anything. I'm an ex-healthcare executive, so this was kind of an odd move. It wasn't a natural thing, but I saw the opportunity to help really from a very specific perspective. I came at it from a consumer's point of view, right? I'm a car enthusiast. I was the guy buying these high-end services from, different detailers. And my feeling was, man, we've got the opportunity since I retired and the kids, talked me into doing this, to really take these big company ideas and systems approaches that I've been in for 30 years and kind of right size it for this small little entrepreneurial market. They don't have the IT departments to do this stuff on their own like I had, I could take advantage of. So that was how we came into it. And similar to what Rod was just saying, or Jody, it was really all about customer-driven insight. I mean, nobody, I don't care how smart you are, you can't hang out in your bedroom and think you're going to come up with the next great idea. You might have a kernel of an idea, and by the time you get to the end of it, it looks completely different, right? So you really have to do good, market insight and customer-driven insight to do things correctly.
I like it. Matt, what do you have to say about that, buddy?
So we've got the great story. Mobile Tech RX is the new kids on the block. Actually, a month ago today is when we launched our detailing product. So we just went through this. We're a company who's obviously existed for several years and have served the wider recon industry, but we've got a 24-month roadmap. And what we really key on is not just industry, but giant economic trends. And that's something detailers can and should be looking at too. We don't just look at, hey, how many solutions, how many detailing shops are there, but we look at consumer behavior, like how many new cars do we think will be purchased? How many used cars do we think will be purchased? What is the spend value on how people service those used cars versus new cars? And obviously this throws all of that into whack. And we've spent the last 3 weeks doing huge economic research on how this will impact consumer behavior moving forward. So 4 months ago, we decided, actually it's closer to 6 months ago, we did enough research to say detailing is our next play, based on not just what was in the market, based on not just what we thought we could help with, but also based on where we saw the entire detailing industry moving to. We think it's going to get bigger. We think it's going to get more valuable. Ceramic added value to that. So if we can help these valuable companies actually increase value, and as new companies enter the space, charge more instead of less, then we are catching the tide, rising the tide with this industry, and then connecting everything else we do. So we look at big economic trends. I think detailers should too. Not just your market and your competition, but consumer behavior and how that could in some way impact your consumers walking through your door.
I love it. Kris.
Yeah, honestly, with a lot of these questions, I'm kind of going to let Michael take the reins with it because he's the one, steering this ship. So I'm just going to echo, what Michael said.
Cool. That's an easy out. Put it on your desk. And so, Rod, let's wrap it up with you.
I'm going to take the same route. No, just kidding. I really think that it's a combination of everything. And Jody and I have a very different approach to this. As you know, we're kind of the grassroots type of people, and we get in and get our hands really dirty and learn an industry. And we've done that in other industries as well. As you probably know, we also have a product in the farming industry. And we're literally in the fields with the farmers, seeing what they need, kind of like Michael was saying. It's what do these people need and how can we get them what they need? And we're going to do the same thing with this. We've taken a look, like Matt was saying, at trends and what we think. I mean, it's all predictions, but what do we think the industry is going to do? And taking the time to this downtime to actually just expand out features and things that we think are going to come around that are going to be important to people. when we do get out of this.
Yeah, it's good input. So, all right. So now 1 minute response to the following is one thing I see with people, and I'm seeing it again right now, and it's really troublesome, is procrastination. Is that it blows me away is that, yesterday I finally, these events are a lot of work. It takes a lot of thought. You don't want to just put mindless questions out, right? But yesterday after I was on a couple of them, and I took an afternoon off finally. That was my first really afternoon off since this has all gone down.
What's that?
Exactly. And so, I took a little time. Now I have been I've been keeping my work hours the same. About 8 to 3, 8 to 5, somewhere right in there. I've been trying to keep pretty balanced. But the thing I'm seeing that's really bothering me, and it's across not just our industry, all industries, our people are taking this as a vacation, man, is that they're procrastinating on being ready to relaunch, to restart. The other thing is you've got a lot of the people that are going to be financially absolutely destroyed. And it really bothers me to, are we going after some of the grants that are out there, state and federal? Absolutely. But that's this much of what we're going after. We can't count on anybody writing the check for this, is the way we're looking at this. The other thing is that we are looking at gobbling up new areas, maybe even into new industries as this comes out. If this lasts another 4 to 6 weeks like we think it's going to, is we're going to be busy the next couple of weeks building a couple new businesses that we've wanted to do forever. So don't procrastinate. Don't sit down. Have a timeline to everything. You've heard me before. I mind map everything. But with those mind maps, is Kris will tell you, there's dates to everything that we do. It's assigned to a date. And so just one minute or less on procrastination. Matt, let's start with you.
Yeah, 1 minute or less. I think the key is take care of yourself right now, stay healthy with your family and everything. I think what we hear a lot of, we talk to these detailers, is that's great, but I can't acquire a business financially. I'm struggling right now. What that doesn't mean is that you can't plan to take advantage the second this shifts. So I want to talk when we get to the finance section about how to build forecasted finances, how to look at plans and say, I can recognize the second when this does shift, because procrastination might not mean, hey, go spend all your money on advertising right now. That might not be the best solution for you, depending on your market, what you look like, what your customer flow looks like. What it doesn't mean is that you shouldn't have a trigger in mind. You shouldn't be moving faster than anyone else to say that when this thing happens in my market, this is when I go. Now, procrastination doesn't mean use all your resources right now. What it means is, have you done the actions? Are you spotting your trends to know that when the second this happens, not when 5 people walk in your door, at that point it's too late. 5 people have walked into every door. You're not winning the competition at that point. Procrastination means planning to understand when you can move and when you can take planning to action. And that's what we're doing. That's what every company in the world is doing right now. That's my key. That's my 2 cents.
Hey, and it comes down to this, a quick note I want to do. What's it cost you to call every one of your customers right now? If I owned a shop, I would be on the phone with every customer I've got, just like all of you have explained, saying, hi, just checking on you. I mean, that cost you almost this, yet you know what the return on investment is that? It's huge. Kris, you're up next. We're not going to let you skip out and let your dad.
That's fine. I can talk about procrastination.
There you go.
At least from a more practical standpoint. I come from a background of college athletics, so time management is something that has been ingrained in me for a long time. And I think an important thing now that a lot of us are working from home, whereas before maybe we weren't, still treating the work week and the work days as a work day and dedicating that time exactly like you said, 8 to 3, 8 to 5, whatever it's going to be. Take that time to focus in on work. That's what you would normally be doing. Try to keep some normalcy in your life and stick to, your normal plan. And at least for me, I always work from home. So I feel like my day to day hasn't changed too much. But I will say that, something that helps me a lot with this is literally just creating to-do lists. I need to have that in order to, check things off, and I need to create a plan. If I want to accomplish this, what are the steps I need to take to get there? And just chipping away at those things. Physically checking something off is one of the most satisfying things you can do. And especially now when a lot of people, I think it's easy to feel really helpless and really useless because you're not doing what you're normally doing. But having something that you can physically do every day to work towards your ultimate goal makes a huge difference just in your mental state. Just staying mentally healthy through all of this, because I think it's easy to fall into just being extremely bored all the time.
I think it's a great response. So Rod, we'll put you up next.
Yeah, one of the things that I think is and I totally agree with what Kris is saying. You've got to have things to check off. And one of the things I learned several years ago is put down every single day the 3 to 5 most important things you need to get done. It helps motivate you to do them. And then if you get in a habit of doing this, so you got to do it for 21 days or more, but you put down the most important 3 to 5 things you need to do, and you will find that you get those things kicked off that fast, and then you can move on to the next 3 to 5 important things. And before you know it, you're checking things off that are, those 11 things that have been hanging out there in the breeze for 20 months. And then I think it's scheduling actual downtime. So schedule yourself an hour to go stare at a tree or do whatever you need to do, go for a walk. But if you schedule time to do nothing, then when you get back or before you go, you're more focused, and mentally and physically, there's a time, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm going to go do this thing for an hour. And then you're not just finding other things to do all day long.
Well, that's a great point. Rod, both of you guys, all 3 of you just hit on something that I just took notes of. And this is a great time to retrain yourself not to overwork. This is a great time to retrain yourself to have balance in your life and to teach yourself balance and to demand balance. Because you know what? Three friends last Sunday was looking at the world, 3 people I know that were looking at the world going, wow, this is messed up, that are not here this morning. Yep. And so and one of them was not even 50 yet. We don't know when it's going to happen, man. This is a great time to retrain yourself to having a little fun in life. And so now let's go back up. Michael, let's go to you.
Sure. So I try and dial it back a little bit when we talk about things like procrastination and figure out, well, what's driving that behavior? Because no one likes to procrastinate. It's easy to do for all of us, but then we all kind of loathe ourselves afterwards, right? So I always kind of peel that onion back a little bit and say, so what's underpinning that procrastination? And a lot of it is just people are a little paralyzed because I think they're looking too close at the problem. They kind of have to get their eyes up, and get yourself out of your little immediate situation, and start looking at the bigger picture of things. And I'm part of the Guardians group, and we're personally mentoring people through this. I mean, I get calls all day long from different detailers, and it's got, nothing to do with Urable. This is just all about, what are some business strategies to help, bridge the gap for me. So I just, talk them through some things. I don't have all the answers, but I think it's, the willingness to say, I don't know where to get started, and then just reach out to somebody that you have, learned about or heard about online, and just reach out to them. And maybe they give you a little spark that matches up with the way you think. And now you can get out of that procrastination, because hope is not a strategy, right? So you can't sit back on your couch playing video games and just hope it's all going to turn out, right? That is not a strategy. Take control of your situation, and kind of do some self-reflection and reach out to people that maybe you don't even know them, but you just met them online. I've gotten to know dozens of people through this whole exercise with the Guardians. It's been awesome.
Now, and there are some great, you've got, I'm going to go on to the rad companies hosting stuff. We've been doing our reach out. There's a lot of solid information out there. But I caution people is be very careful who you let into your head, because there's also some questionable, we've all seen the forums blow up, right? And so, you just got to take everything with a grain of salt. And there's some very educated people out there putting out some great information. Jody.
Yeah, what I find with procrastination is usually it's something I don't want to do, it's something I'm dreading, or something I really don't have the expertise for, and so I keep putting it off. And so a lot of times, once you understand the motivator, the underpinnings, like Michael said, to that action, then it enables you to set a plan. And what I found is that what really works is if you set, especially if you're really struggling, is if you find an accountability partner that says, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this week and I'm going to report with you on Thursday what I've accomplished. And I've noticed, just in our own team operations, as we've all gone remote and working at our homes, just having that daily check-in twice a day, it's actually made us more collaborative. It's made us work more efficiently as a team. And so when you can have that accountability, it makes a huge difference and helps you from putting off those things that you've been procrastinating.
I love it. I love it. All right, let's go to you have some fun now. Let's talk business basics. Let's talk about foundation building. What is one thing, I'm going to ask each one of you, what's one thing in a business on the foundation level that you think is important right now? Think of a foundation, something foundation-based for these small businesses. I'm talking to the guys that are one-man operations, two-man operations, maybe three-man operation, small companies. So let's start, Kris, let's go to you. Let's start with you.
So I would say sort of two things, but it's sort of into one. Building relationships and customer retention. Those are huge things. Right now, the customer acquisition really isn't going to be there. Lots of shops are shutting down. So building those relationships and reaching out to your past customers is going to be huge right now. So then when you do open back up, you're going to have all kinds of people ready to come back in.
I love it. Jody.
I would agree. I mean, you got to foster the existing relationships. You need to build new relationships, not necessarily to sell them, but to reach out, give advice. I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me and just said, hey, I know you and Jody do these memoir shows. I have some ideas about my business. Do you think I should be doing so? I can't tell you how many people have just reached out and said, what do you think I should do? From a business standpoint. So I think the relationship continues to grow throughout the process. So don't feel like you're sequestered in the bunker and no, you can't talk to anybody anymore. So
I love it. Matt.
Yeah, I think one aspect of basics in the business side is your operational foundation. Yep. So now is the time to think about whether you're a 1-person shop or a 10-person shop. What process in your business takes 2 minutes longer than you think it should? How can you make that either work a little bit faster? Is that a system you need to bring in? Is that a training process? Do multiple of your employees not know how to estimate accurately, or does it take them too long to walk from this side of the shop to the next side of the shop? What in your business can you look at that right now is taking even slightly longer than it should or is more complicated than it should be? And how can you plan today to solve that problem so that when demand is there, you can meet it and not have to turn people away? I think that's a huge thing to focus on right now.
Yeah, SOP, man. It's funny because in the National Guard right now, I mean, we're watching everything, kind of, the buildup is happening really strong in the last couple of days. And our SOPs, our training, our we're weekend warriors. And, the basics, it's funny, the basics have come out so clear because we've practiced. And so, if you don't practice even the basics, it can be bad. Rod.
Well, we're all nerds here. Let's just admit it. So it's the data. It is the data, and how do we take what our business has done and what we're predicting and move that going forward. If you don't know, I mean, we joke a lot of times, we would say, if you can't measure it, you can't, manage it, but it's absolutely true in a business. Take a look at what you've done and what's brought in money and where it's coming from. Now is a perfect time to get rid of some services. Look at those things that aren't making you money, and I don't care if you bake cakes for a living or you do detailing or, whatever. If it's not making you money, why are you doing it? And stop wasting time and figure out how to look beyond this and what is going to be the next thing I need to do. And I think the data is the key to that.
Michael.
Yeah, so I'd agree with what's being said. I'd add one more dimension to this, and I'd say that, the image you put forth matters. So if you want to be able to charge professional rates, and you might be the greatest detailer ever, known to man, you've gone through Renny's trainings, you got it all down from a technical aspect. But if you don't have the professional level of appearance and communication and just follow up and create a professional experience that kind of matches your skill level, well, then you're only getting halfway to the dance. So I'd say you really need to just take a giant step back and say, all right, I am this good at my services, providing them from a technical standpoint. How am I in terms of the experience I'm delivering to my customers? Is it commensurate with that, or am I lacking in that? And take a look at your image. That goes back to your website design, the messaging you're putting forth. What position are you trying to carve out in your local market? Like Renny, like you said, you wanted to come in as a premium guy, right? So you didn't go in low, you came in high. All of that kind of stuff matters. So this is a time that people should sit back and just really assess kind of their overall image and what they're putting forth.
I agree. And not just the image of their company, the image of them, of how they look, how they smell, how they dress, how they talk, how they, I watched the Roosevelts last night, and they're talking about Teddy Roosevelt, and that, Teddy Roosevelt was born into money. I mean, the Roosevelt family is huge in New York, right? The guy he never lost the way he talked, but he could relate to the common people and I think and he had his own image, and he had his own brand, and he had his own way of doing things. You can do all the above, but you got to look the part, smell the part, talk the part, support the part, perform at the part the whole way through. So great answers. Thank you. So let's go ahead to the next one. So this is huge. Let's talk finances. So Michael, what's one thing that you see is kind of a missing, and this is all to all of you, finances and detailing, is I've got my opinions on it, but Michael, what's one thing, 1 minute or less, what would you say to detailers that is maybe they're missing or they need to kind of rethink about?
Well, maybe this whole thing was a wake-up call to really tell you that, you need to start putting money away. Don't treat your business like it's just creating beer money for you. Don't do that. Don't fall into that trap. I'm probably damn near as tight as Rod. So I've always lived within my means, so I mean, I live in the same house I've been in for 22 years, so it's not like, I made a lot more money going, up the chain in healthcare. I could have got a bigger house, but what's the point? Who the hell cares? This is a great house. So it's about having the wherewithal that when you finally have money, that you choose not to spend it. You choose to save it for, covering situations like this.
Amen. Jody, how about you?
I would echo that. I mean, Rod and I, every day, and I guess this would be my point to detailer business owners, whether you're now, before, or after, you need to be looking at your finances every single day. I mean, Rod and I know to the penny where we are on our expenses, on what money we're bringing in, what we can project out. And when you have that fine-tuned attention to your finances, it allows you to be strategic. And right now, people are limited on how strategic they can be because they've constrained themselves by not allowing themselves the wherewithal and the mental capacity and the mindset on their finances to enable them to leverage this opportunity and weather it if they need to weather the distance.
I love it. Matt.
Yeah, I think one thing that's a huge component of mine is forecasting. I think any third grader with a lemonade stand knows how much revenue they've made. That's not hard. I think anyone knows how much money they're bringing in. We as a company are required to predict how much revenue we might have in 24 months from now. And I think that's something that as a business practice, even small business owners, when you can start to look at how do I take the past revenue trends I have, the past expense trends I have, and how do I forecast out, maybe not 24 months, 36 months, how do I forecast out starting 3 months, 6 months, what my expectations of revenue should be? That allows you to plan for, okay, am I off that expectation? Am I beating it? Should I be spending more on marketing? Should I be spending less on marketing? That's one thing that I think a lot of businesses struggle with, is not just knowing where you sit today, but how can I beat my competition? How can I be stronger because I'm making fast decisions, because I can track tomorrow, if this happens, I do this. If 3 months from now, my revenue hits within 5% of my projections based on 2 years of data, then that means I need to double my marketing spend. I'm growing faster than I thought I was. So I would focus on forecasting, and that's a skill. It's something that not a lot of people are great at. It can be tough to do. I think there's a ton of resources out there, but I would take all of your past data, if it's 10 years or if it's 6 months, and how can I project what this looks like 2 months, 3 months, 12 months from now, so that I can make decisions on what I spend, what I invest in, based on what future looks like and not just today.
You know, it's funny because as we sit here and we talk about this, guess what's to my left-hand side? That should be to everybody's left-hand side or right-hand side of their business every week. Every Friday I get it. That's my P&L. And you know what? And we're not a huge company. But you know what? I don't care how small or big you are, man. You better be able to get under that P&L and understand it real quick. So, Kris?
Yeah, honestly, that's really what I was going to say. There's so many businesses that really don't know where they're at today. You know, we're thinking about that as a basic, but there's a lot of people that still need to get there. And I think just starting there, you know, how much money are you making? How much are you losing? Where are your expenses at? And understanding what that number is, because you really can't do anything without it. So I would say, you know, just to get back to the basics and understand those numbers.
I love it. Rod?
Yeah. So as I said at the beginning, this is kind of where
Tightwad Rod. Let's go.
Exactly. So this is where I kind of live every day, like Jody said. And I think everybody's really saying the same thing. I don't care how big of a smaller business you are, whether you farm out your accounting or not, you have to still be involved in the numbers. And I have it open every single day, and I'm looking at it. What did we do last year? What was the effect when we made this change? When we marketed here, what did we do? To try to get to those points where you can predict what's going to happen. This is an unpredictable time. We're going to look back at this time in 6 months and go, okay, during April, this happened and we did this and it affected the market this way. So it's always changing. It's always moving, and you have to just keep up with it. And having the numbers of where you're spending your money and what it's doing. The other thing I would say for small businesses is absolutely, you cannot live paycheck to paycheck. I mean, I watched on social media within 6 days, somebody was selling off their tools and saying, I'm getting out of detailing. If you are that tight, you did something wrong. You needed to go get a part-time job. You needed to have some other source of income. You need to have money saved. You need to have money saved for no other reason than the shit hit the fan. And if you don't have that, this is going to adversely affect you. And I can see those guys and those gals out on the internet right now. They're the ones bashing people. They're the ones out there trashing on everybody else and trying to, they're in survival mode, and it's not going to work. There's nothing about this market right now that you can control other than your own image, as Michael said, and the way that you're going to do things after it's over. So just take a look at your finances. If you don't know what your P&L is, if you can't even spell P&L, learn how to do it. You got plenty of time right now.
Boy, there's a lot of online classes to it. You know, to your point too, is that, you know, a lot of people in survival mode, they're thrashing out. I'll take it back to military and search and rescue. When you put people into a survival mode, the people that stay calm are the people that live. Is the people that lose their binds, they're usually already they're going down the drain, and they usually succumb to their injuries. This is going to be the same way. Those that remain in control and seek out advice and seek out professionals and do what they got to do, and their willingness to survive, they'll live through it. It might not be pretty. You might have some scars when you come out, but you'll learn from those scars. All right, great. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one. This is a fun one. So right now, what's out there for business that you guys have seen and heard about in the realities of sole proprietors and small corporations getting these things? We've all heard about the PPP, you know, the paycheck. We've all heard about, you know, SBAs and stuff like that. So very quickly, let's who haven't we started with? Jody, let's go ahead and we'll kick this off with you. We'll go with you, and then we'll go down to Michael. So
Actually, I'm going to pull a Kris on this one, and I'm going to defer that one to Rod, because that's his wheelhouse. That's his responsibility in our business. So let him take it.
So let's go down to Michael real quick. Michael, what are you seeing? What are you hearing?
Well, the stuff I'm just paying attention to is the stimulus package for the most part. And the PPP is an absolute no-brainer. I'm not a big fan of pulling that layoff trigger quickly. I talked about that in a live thing I did for the Guardians group. I viewed, laying people off as a last resort. So, find creative ways to bridge that gap before you pull that trigger. The PPP is an absolute no-brainer. Everybody should be looking at that. Everybody should be trying to bring back their employees. There's an inherent goodness to doing that anyway, because now you're kind of enrolling your employees into the problem. It's a co-owned problem, right? This isn't something like the business owner screwed something up, right? This is a co-owned situation. So my feeling is enroll the people into the problem and help them be part of the solution for you. But the triple P is an absolute no-brainer. Everybody should be doing it.
Yeah.
Matt, go ahead. We'll go to Matt.
Yeah, I think the other thing out there is that you've got these national things that everyone's hearing about and talking about, but there's also so many local resources. The response to this at a local level has been large. I'm not going to plug Mobile Tech RX, but we actually just published an article today that dives into the state-by-state resources of what you can apply to, things you can look into. And that's part of that not procrastinating, is also researching what are the small opportunities in your area that you can benefit from your business. We put an article together that outlines state by state what's there. That's one of our biggest focuses as a business right now, is how can we aggregate resources for this industry. But yes, take advantage of every possible thing you can. This is not a time to say, I'm not going to take handouts. This is not a handout. This is a support as a small business owner to make sure that you can continue supporting, like Michael said, the employees that work for you, the future customers you have. So do the research, know what is around you in your city, in your county, in your state, not just at a national level, that is available to you, and spend as much time as you need to researching and applying to those opportunities.
I love it. Okay, Rod?
Yeah, so I'll try to cram as much of this in as I can. Since this thing hit, I have been on the phone with our CPA, with a national person looking into this. There are more than just the paycheck stimulus things available. The first thing I would tell people to do is I break everything up into two categories: discretional and non-discretionary funds. That's on a personal and a business level. Take the non-discretionary funds and start cutting that stuff down to the bone, right? Dining out, Michael and I, we're not spending money on cars, I can guarantee you right now. Take the non-discretionary and get rid of that stuff. Then the discretionary stuff, start calling your debtors, if you will. Your cable ones, your direct TVs. I called direct TV, and out of a loyalty program, in 5 minutes, they dropped my monthly payment by $70. I just called them on the phone. What are you guys doing for customers? Hey, are you a loyal member? Yep, we'll drop you by $70 a month. So call all of those people and get that stuff down first. On the federal level, there are 3 different loans available SBA-wise. There's a single loan available that you can only forgive 10 grand of that, and it's got stipulations. There's 2 other ones that are very lucrative. I think they're $2 million and $1 million available per company. One of them is for wages only. You take a look at wages and healthcare and taxes for one single month, and you multiply that by 250%, and that's the total of your company's loan. There's another one called the SBA 7. That loan is available up to $1 million, and that one is a total forgiveness if you do not lay off or reduce anybody's wages in the next 4 months. It's also retroactive. It goes back starting February 15th to June 30th.
Wow.
So as an example of what I think Matt was saying, I'm already signed up for it. The first day it came out, I put in our information, because there is no reason to not take advantage of these. And as Michael said, one of our goals when we started our company in 2009 was we're not going to lay anybody off. We got sick and tired of companies that did that, and try to find ways to keep people working. And this is one way to do that. That loan out there for a small business is huge. It takes into account rent, salaries, healthcare, time off, everything. Just go look this stuff up. It's all over. Anybody that's an SBA lender is getting this signed up. And I believe today, the 3rd, was the first day they were starting to look at applications on those.
That's right. That's right.
Renny,
And
one quick
that's
thing
why
too.
let Rod do that stuff.
Chris, real quick, let's go ahead and we'll go to Chris.
Listen, I'm staying in my lane here, man.
Hey, Renny, one quick note. There's also, if you're being in the proactive side, companies like Facebook and Google are offering free advertising for small businesses. You can apply to actually use Facebook's money for your advertising, Google's money for your search advertising. So once I think first step is what Rod, Michael, myself have talked about, the loans that are available, the financial support. The next step is how can you take advantage of people saying, please keep using us, spend our money to advertise your business, whether now or in the future. That's available to you.
Boy, that's a good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah. One other thing, if I can throw this in there, somebody asked me yesterday because they heard that I had a little bit of information about it, and they asked me, what can I do with that money? Right now, if you max out your 401k, the stocks and everything are so low that you will make so much more money for your retirement if you have the means to. And if you take out one of these loans, or, you know, people are saying, what am I going to do with this $1,200 that comes in, even if I'm still working? Dump it in your 401k. You will make so much more money right now than you would if you waited and did it later on. Because when this rebounds, the prediction is the market's going to go through the roof.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, it's great. Great advice,
So
everybody.
one thing, if I could add too, and I'd love to get your guys' view on this too. There seems to be a real reticence within the detailing market as a whole against taking on debt. Look, you know, I love being debt free too, right? But there are times when taking on debt is a damn good business move, right? And this may be one of them for people. So I've been trying to talk people off that ledge. You know, are you guys seeing that same kind of thing? There's this general reluctance to bring on some debt.
Let's explain the background on that. Is that you guys, you know, a lot of you came into the detailing industry at a different time, before coatings, before paint correction, before acceptance. Back in the day, let's go back 10, 15 years ago, detailers carried what I call bad debt. Their entire business was on a credit card, and they didn't know what lines of credits were. They weren't financing real estate. They weren't buying shops. They weren't buying homes. They're going out and digging themselves in deeper and deeper and deeper. So that's where that sediment, because a lot of us old timers have been telling them for years, stop it. You know, don't dig yourself in this consumer debt. Dig yourself in with, you know, goods line of credit, right? I mean, good things. Taking advantage of tax situations where it makes sense to buy a vehicle. It makes sense to buy things for your shop. It makes sense to buy real estate, to buy your shop. All those things are kind of new to the detailing industry. So I think that's one of the things that we're seeing is that, and I think it was Rod that mentioned it. I was really alarmed because on the 6th day, I noticed the first guy saying they popped smoke, meaning that they were done. They were already broke 6 days in. And, you know, we had a situation to where I was brought in light with somebody in the industry that's a pretty big player that's been around a long time. All of his credit cards were already being rejected. This is somebody that's been around for 20 years. And so, you know, I think that we need to keep, Michael, all of us, we need to keep preaching that is the difference between good debt and bad debt.
Well, I tell you, the debt that's out there right now that you can get is so unbelievably cheap. You're crazy not to take advantage of some of this stuff to just bridge you at the very least, right? I mean, shoot, they're capping those things at the federal level at 4%. The other stuff, you can get those loans. It's 0.5%, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's so cheap.
Even looking at refinancing your house right now. I mean,
yeah,
you could make 6 figures refinancing your house. You got to think like a wealthy person. Is you're not going to make 6 figures right now, but you could take your loan from a 30-year loan down to a 15-year loan and not change your payments. You know, so those are the things that people need to be looking at. Correct?
Yes.
Jody,
yeah.
add to that?
No, I agree. I mean, I think like Michael said, it is cheap money that you can use to invest and leverage your business at this time. And I think you really need to be wise. I mean, Rod and I have spent hours and hours digging into this to figure out how we can strategically leverage it, and not only leverage the loan, but planning on how we're going to use it to grow our business, not just to get the money to consume it, but how we're going to use it to strategically grow.
To move ahead, to get ahead, not to just survive, but thrive. I love it. So, hey, on the outside point, nothing to do with detailing. What are you guys hearing in the general software industry? What are the big guys? What's the big picture people saying on this? Is this going to be, I mean, are we doomed? Are they pretty positive? Is it like pretty much all the other gurus? Or, I mean, there's some gurus saying, oh man, this and this. Well, you know what? They really can't tell right now. But kind of what's the projection? So let's go down and let's go with Matt. We haven't started with him in a bit. Matt, kind of, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I'm lucky that I live in the tech capital of the world. I live in San Francisco, and I'm pretty connected here and get to hear from venture capital, get to hear from private equity, get to hear from software startups, all the way to the giant players, Google, Facebook. What's really important to know is COVID-19 has been the great equalizer. I mean, tech companies are laying people off just as much as any other industry right now. Tech companies are just as impacted by these change in consumer behavior, this no traveling, this no staying at hotels, all of this that's happening. What I've seen and what we've been tracking is that this is an opportunity. And especially in software and technology, like I mentioned, our company has gone through a crazy 10 months. 10 months ago, we raised money from a venture capital group. 5 months ago, we only had 5 employees. Now we've got 25. We've shown the people on the board, we put on a PowerPoint presentation for our company. These are the companies that took advantage of opportunities like this. So no, we're not doomed, Renny. No one in our industry and technology and software, this is an opportunity for the companies who are innovative, who were solving great problems before. Those problems will still exist after. Every piece of advice that this whole crew is giving the detailing industry is the same advice we're taking. We are planning like our life depends on it. We have 5 different scenario analyses that say, depending on what happens over the next 6 months, here's how we act, here's where we spend, here's who we hire, here's who we don't hire, because we know that this is about getting to the other side and not just being the same company we were, but finding out how we can solve the problems of the future. So yes, software industry is struggling. As a whole, technology is laying off just as many people, but the companies who are thinking ahead, who are planning to solve problems like this group is doing right now, I think we're going to be fine.
So Jody, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I would echo that, and I think what you're going to see is you're going to see companies like, everybody on this panel, you're going to see people like Zoom, you're going to see companies like GoToMeeting, those people that are really leveraging technology to get into the business wheelhouse, the everyday usage of it, that it actually becomes a tool. Those are going to be the software companies that thrive and grow. Ones that are doing it the old way and the ones that are contracting, those are the ones that are acting out of fear and rather than acting out of a strategic mindset.
Great. Michael.
So, I can't really speak for the overall software industry, but I think as a general trend, what I see, because my wife is a librarian at school outside of Philadelphia. And what I noticed right away within her, professional area is that the software companies that offer all these databases for the kids to use in education, they just opened their doors, right? They just said, look, this is an unprecedented time. Yep, you've got a subscription for one of our databases. We're going to open it up to the other 15, right? We did the same thing. We waived all our subscription fees for everybody for a month. So, I took our revenue to zero, voluntarily. Just trying to do what's right, by our customers. So I think the software industry, at least ones that are working off a subscription model, they've got a beautiful opportunity to kind of take the moral high ground here and do what's right and not go for a money grab at this point in time. Like Mike Smith's, landlord is going for. That was unbelievable to me, that he could reach out and ask for a deferment and the guy tells him no and is ready to shop his building. That's just ridiculous to me. So Mike should put that one in the pocket and pull that trigger when he wants to leave.
Exactly. Isn't that true? Rod.
Yeah, I think that, Michael's right, is we're talking to each customer individually and trying to meet their needs. Like we said, we've had a couple customers call to us and right now they're poised to actually expand. Other customers have had to take a step back, and we're doing the same thing that Michael mentioned, is we're waiving fees. We're trying to restructure. software companies are going to become more flexible. I don't think you're going to see them be as rigid as they were in the past. So we have to be just as flexible. And the analogy that I kind of like is it's kind of like surfing, right? You can either be under the wave, or you can figure out how the hell to get on top of that wave and come out on and ride that thing through and look good at the end of it. You know, we're all going to hit the beach at the end, and whether you're tumbling and the board's hitting you in the back of the head, or whether you glide in and look great, it depends on how you treat your customers and how you treat other people in the industry. You know, I don't see Michael and Kris and Matt and I and Jody all bashing each other on social media. Right now is the time to come together. And if somebody asks a question of, you know, what software does this and what software does that, we all have shared customers back and forth. It's the software or the technology that works for your company. It's not about going in, like you said, and doing a big money grab right now and trying to go in and take advantage of the situation, because you're not going to. You're just going to look like an ass, and you're going to be put on that back shelf with everybody else when it's over.
Yeah. Kris?
Yeah, honestly, everything that's been said has been, you know, really spot on. And, you know, it's a crazy time right now. And it's funny because there's been all kinds of movies that have depicted like, oh, like, you know, we're no longer going to be, you know, a species that, you know, interacts physically. What's that movie, Ready Player One, where everybody just has like a virtual character? This has been something that's like, you know, just been in science fiction. And now all of a sudden, you know, the only way that we're communicating with people is over, you know, Zoom or GoToMeeting or Google Meeting, whatever it's going to be. So just companies that are ready to adapt to, you know, a completely changing world, because who knows, not to be an alarmist, but this may be the first of many pandemics. So having companies that kind of have the foresight and the willingness to adapt to a completely different world than it was just a couple years ago, those are going to be the ones that thrive.
Well, I'll tell you,
Renny,
it made me wish that I was in the mask, gloves,
Yeah.
casual business. You know,
And I actually heard that the owner of Lysol, I think it was, he's just a private owner, just one guy, and he is living his best life right now.
it will be for some time. You know.
Yeah.
hey Renny, a quick tactical piece of advice here. Same way we've talked about taking advantage of loans and finances.
Yeah.
When we talk about looking at systems, now is the time to try software, not just our software, but those companies are going to be flexible with free trials, with letting you try things. They know that you might not have the discretionary spending. So you might be saying, sure, I want to think about systems, but I don't have the discretionary money to invest in it. That is not the case. Now is the time to look at that stuff, because people are extending free trials. They're making it easier to try things.
Great.
Now is the time to give it a shot.
Great point.
Yep.
Great point. Coming from the guys that charge for software, you know, you guys just all basically said the same thing. I think it's pretty stand up. So, you know, what would you be doing if you were a shop right now? If you were a shop, one thing, minute or less, Kris.
Well, I said this a little bit early on. I would probably be switching over to focusing on product sales, just because right now it's not a terrific idea to be interacting with customers and, you know, all up in their car, because you never know. You know, there's still a lot of unknown that goes on with this, but selling products is a pretty safe bet, and that's a pretty solid way to continue making money during this.
I like it. Rod.
I would be doing what Michael said, working on my image, cleaning up the shop, doing any painting, making it look as professional as you could, getting stuff out on social media, taking the time to upgrade tools and software, and getting yourself ready for that next step.
I like it. Matt.
Be focused on partnerships. Every small business around you in your market is also struggling. Are there ways that you can work with companies that are outside of your industry to bring each other customers when this turns around? That now is the time to negotiate deals, affiliate deals, referral deals with local organizations in your market, because everyone's thinking about how are we going to bring customers in when this turns around. Have those conversations now so those partnerships are in place when people are returning to normal.
Boy, I like that. So, Michael.
Damn. You stole my thing there, Matt.
Sorry, Michael. I'm sorry.
But I guess just in general, this is the time to work, you know, on your business instead of in it. So I would take every opportunity to do it, whether it's looking at various systems to kind of upgrade your internal operations and your customer interactions, or it's, you know, just doing the physical stuff like Rod was saying. Just paint the floors, you know, get an epoxy floor and paint the walls, organize things, get it cleaned up, you know, so you're just putting forth a better image.
Love it. Jody.
Ditto to everything that's been said. I think the one thing that I would add is something that Oscar Hernandez is doing is he's actually preparing DIY videos right now. He's doing educational videos. He's doing videos on his business and the skills that he brings to the table. So he's doing things that are going to proactively, when the time is right, enable him to market strategically.
I love it. And I'll add with this one thing we talked about earlier. It's just we all agree, call your customers. Just reach out to them and be nice, and just without any need or want from them, just check in on them. That's all you're doing. Especially if you know they're solo, if they don't have family, if they're older, if they're maybe an older couple, or they're empty nesters, they're probably partying pretty hard, and so, think about that, just being unique and just being nice. And then let's come into this is, what's your guys's, what's your survival? This is a picture a lot of you guys don't see my weekend gig, is what's your strategy for surviving this? A simple strategy. So we'll start out with this time with Michael.
We, right when this thing hit, we all got together and we just said, look, we're going to be part of the solution, not part of the problem. So that's when we, decided to waive our fees at that point in time. So it was pretty early in the game that we decided that. So that really is the nutshell. It is about, rising above this, not being an alarmist. I'm sure as hell not laying off my kids,
Thanks.
That would be trouble.
There you go.
So it's just about rising above it, keeping a clear head, a calm demeanor, and staying positive and trying to lift the people around me.
I love it. Jody.
You know what? Ditto, except, Rob was going to fire me, but if it wasn't for the stimulus packages, so I'm safe.
Yeah.
That was my one out.
No, I think,
half
all of us are, we're looking at where our expenses are. We're strategically, eliminating things that have probably been baggage anyway that we needed to cut. So that's been good. But we're also being proactive. We're looking at things that we're going to build right now in our software that is going to better serve our customers. And so we're looking at it as an opportunity to double down on ourselves so that we can better serve our customers and the market in general, because we really look at ourselves as market players, just not customer players. We want to be an advocate for the entire industry. So we're looking at ways that we can do those types of things.
I dig it. Matt.
Yeah, so we call this our support strategy, not our survival strategy. How can we support right now? We really made some big transitions. We knew the second this happened that we had to realize that there wasn't going to be the same discretionary spending. It would actually be unwise of us to tell people, hey, now's the time to invest. So we made a few quick decisions. One, we extended our 30-day free trial to a 60-day free trial. Of course, like Michael said, that's not great for our finances overall, but it's how can we support the industry when we say, go to work on your business, let's give them the resource to do that without having to worry about paying for it. The second thing we transitioned to is we've got an education content play that we think is really important. We've had interviews with Renny, interviews with Justin Lobato, with Big D in Lexington that we filmed months ago that we're going to work on escalating and transitioning our marketing model from one of a, hey, check us out, we're new, we're software, to, hey, here's some direct lessons on how to actually put into practice some of the stuff that we've talked about in this interview. So we've transitioned our marketing play, our sales play, and even our product play into how can we not just talk about software, but talk about business. That was always in the plans. Obviously, this makes it move faster. And we're actually launching products in the middle of this. Payment processing for us is coming out this month or next month because we think it's a way for us to bring it all together and give everyone the opportunity to focus on what is important right now, which is those optimizations, those systems.
I love it. Kris, this is going to be interesting because of your age. A lot of people are going to relate to you because detailing's, there's a young crowd. There's a lot of entrepreneurs that came into this that are, they're scared and they're nervous and they're itchy and what would be from a young person's perspective, what would you tell these people how to survive it?
Yeah, honestly, I'm naturally going to bring a different perspective just because, I don't really have the experience to give a super big picture perspective here. So, just a small picture perspective, just kind of owning the day, and keeping your day structured. And that's been really my survival strategy, like, especially with young people, technology is so ingrained in us. It's easy to just get onto your phone and start scrolling and doing nothing with your entire day. So, carving out some time to really focus on what you need to get done, something that's productive, learning a new skill, like just keeping your mind engaged, has been really huge for me because, honestly, I'm a type A person. I can't sit still and do nothing. But, I always need to be, engaging in some way and just keeping some sort of normalcy in my day and in my life. Because there's a lot that's just like totally out of control right now. And it's easy to kind of get sucked into that mentality and, just controlling what you can. I will say, like, something that I've noticed about myself, because there's so much out of control, I'm really taking control over the things that I can. And this sounds like a ridiculous example, but I have been brushing my teeth and flossing and like doing the most insane routine every night with my teeth, because it's like, okay, like this is the one thing I have control over now.
With you.
But just finding things like that, it's so important to just focus on what you can control, and that makes you feel like you have control over your life.
I think it's great advice for any age. And I got bad news for you. I just had a deep cleaning of my teeth, so I've been fanatical too.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, it's not an age thing.
Okay, well, that's good.
It's a human thing, as we become so connected with these little demons, right? I've actually learned, you're going to see me put a post up, is I did it last Friday and I'm going to do it again today, is I'm off social media for the weekend, starting this afternoon. I don't come back on until Monday or Tuesday. The world's not going to change with me watching everybody else that likes to watch the world burn, bitch about it, So I've got to, here's the thing I feel more in control of my life today than I did a month ago.
Yeah.
I really do. And you know why? Is because everything's kind of calmed down.
Yeah.
I can harass my 16-year-old daughter nonstop. She has nowhere else to go. She can't escape it.
Lucky her.
I think the hole in the backyard that my wife is digging a garden is actually to stick me in. I think I'm going to be, so I'm watching my P's and Q's there. And so there's a lot of things out of control, but if you just simply think your mindset into you, and I think young people are better at this nowadays than they were when I was your age, is that it's not going to end your life, man. Tomorrow's going to go on, and you still got to be happy. You still got to be healthy. I love seeing you work out with your dog, and doing the wall leg press, just sitting. Great creative ways. Matter of fact, I showed my daughter that video, and
she should do it.
I think so. So good points, Rod. We'll end it with you.
I think basically it's you've got to look at your business, but you got to, like Kris said, you got to set aside time. I'm lucky. I have a shop behind my house and I've got cars. And so I go out and do something that's completely mindless, like weld. I mean, I can say that I've built a frame for a trailer that really has no purpose in the world other than to look cool, but boy, it's a nice one. And you just go out there and set aside time and do something that is taking your mind off of what is happening right now in the world, and just do something, play a board game or harass your kids or do whatever you can do to get your mind off of it, and stop watching so much social media. I agree with that. It's set aside time. I make my kids do that. I'm like, look, set aside time. I'm going to waste the next hour and a half on social media, and then I'm done. I'm off. Then just go do something else.
You know what I did too? A little hint is I took my news off my phone. You know how you swipe over and it will show your news feed? I took it off. I put a couple news apps that I trust on there. I check news when I want to check news, not when they want to shove it down my throat.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Also, a quick little thing, because I needed to look into it by necessity. There are settings on your phones that will limit the amount of time that you can spend on certain apps. So if you have the discipline to at least set those, you literally won't be able to get into those apps until the following day.
I love it. I absolutely love it. So I skipped over one slide because we've already kind of gone over it. And so really what I want to set this up is anything else that you guys can think of, just a 1-minute wrap up. So we'll start at the bottom this time. We'll go up to, let's go to Rod. Anything the rest of the world that you just want to say for 1 minute?
Just keep your head on. This is going to end. This is a known entity. It's not some, war. It's not something we don't know is going to end. We know it's going to end. It's going to take time and we're already seeing some of the other rest of the world come down. And so just, you got to ride out this storm, and you've got to keep your head about you and stay sane while that's happening, so that when it's over, you're a sane human.
I love it, Matt.
Yeah, just know that you've got people who are willing to help right now. And that's not just the people that you're following on Facebook. That's people like on this call. I'm sure every single one of us would be happy to sit down with you, regardless of the size of your company or what stage or phase you're in, and talk about things like forecasting finances or systems management. And Michael's experience alone is worth chatting with. So know that if you've got any time whatsoever, now is the time to schedule 30 minutes to an hour to chat with people you've never talked to before, to make sure you're not missing anything.
Yeah, and I will qualify that to protect all of you. Be responsible and be nice to people that you request time with, because, you know, there's probably over 100 people that are watching this live between both, and there's probably going to be 1,000 people that watch it. So just be responsible, and if they can't get with you right away, or they can't work you into their schedule right away, or if they're not willing to, you know, these folks have got a weekend ahead too, and so just be kind to people. So Kris?
I would say that, you know, social distancing doesn't need to mean social disconnection. And I think it's really important right now to stay connected with people. I think it's just a natural human thing. If you start becoming a hermit, you're going to be messed up, and you're not going to be socially okay. And, you know, staying connected with friends and family, whether it's over a video call or a phone call, or, you know, writing each other letters, whatever it's going to be, you know, stay connected, because I think that's going to be so important. Not only for our mental health, but honestly for our physical health. We need to stay distant. That's the way, you know, things are right now, but, you know, we need to also stay mentally healthy.
I love that. You know, Jason Rose came up with a great term yesterday. He doesn't like social distancing, the term at all. He likes physical distancing and social interaction. And so I thought when he said that, I was like, you know, damn, wow, that's not true. So I think that's so, Kris, that's so, and again, that's a young person's perspective. Us older people sometimes can kind of forget about that. You know, I've been forcing myself to put my phone down, not take calls, put it on do not disturb every once in a while, a couple times during the day, and just check out from everybody else's world and come into mine, you know, with my family. So Michael?
Oh, was that to me? Sorry.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say I'm super proud of my kids.
Pretty cool.
Kris is an amazing individual. She's been like this since she was a little crapper. But you know, I echo what everyone else has said, and I think I'm finding myself interacting with more people now than I did prior to this. And I don't quite know what's driving that yet, but I mean, we haven't had, you know, with my siblings, I'm one of 5, we haven't had, you know, group calls like this, like ever, right? You kind of connect up with one person here and there, right? And now we're finally doing these group things. And it's kind of totally changed the dynamic. So I really agree with what Kris was saying. This is a nice time to kind of stay united and reconnect with more people.
Well, you can see if you guys watched the video that I put up last night on social media of screwing with my brother. Every time that he's relaxed, I try to scare the shit out of him. Whether he's in the bathroom, he's coming out of his room, whatever it is. He's in between houses right now, and it turned out, you know, he's probably going to be with us for a bit. So I'm taking advantage of it and screwing my big brother every opportunity that I can get. It's fun, and I am going to document it and put it on social media. So great point, Michael. So Jody, we'll end this with you.
So I agree with Kris 100%. I mean, you got to stay socially connected, and it really hit home to me last week. On Tuesday morning, I just had this really strong impression that I needed to call an older lady whose husband had died a year ago.
Wow.
And I called her up and I said, "Hey, Diane, I just want to let you know I was thinking about you." And dude, she just went on and on. She's like, "Oh, I'm so grateful you called. I was sitting in my home. I had so much cabin fever. I haven't been able to get out. I'm all alone." And then we had this beautiful conversation for 35 minutes about her grandkids and her kids and everybody else. And I think, you know, being able to take the time and connect with people that we probably normally don't think about, that really need that connection, is our opportunity to make a small difference in somebody's dark moment.
I agree. Great point. A couple questions pop up. Mark Nelson just wants to thank all of you. He says thank you for attending today and putting this on. Great information. Mark's a great guy. Dan Smith asks, is there a good source for business planning books, websites looking for how to build a business plan, mission statements, that kind of stuff? You know, boy, there's so much going on. I mean, I could post up a blog. We've got a really basic business plan. My business plan changes 4 or 5 times a year. We adjust it. So I don't like a 20-page business plan. I've got a finance section. You know, we've got ours laid out, but we'll work, Kris and I will work on maybe putting a business plan sample up on the blog. Any of you guys got any input on that if anywhere to send people?
For the most part, just check, local stuff like the SBA and your personal financial institutions usually have some pretty basic boilerplate stuff. But I think, Renny, you've got the perfect answer. There's nobody's business plan or goals stay solid. It's a working document. So start with something and adjust it as you go.
Yeah, I like that. Any other input?
I think go ahead.
There's literally thousands of opportunities online to grab these things. I couldn't even narrow it down. Honestly, none of them may be perfect for you. So I'd look at maybe 5 or 6 different kind of templates that are out there and see what makes sense for you. Because it's really just about putting different sections together and seeing what works for your own kind of approach to your business.
Yeah.
Yep.
So a couple of people, I think, a couple software questions. I think, what's the next step in software programming? I think Matt had it best is go out there. This is a great time to sample what's out there, take a look at the systems, talk with all these folks one-on-one and get to learn. They can help you whether you're a one-man operation or a multiple team operation. Another question comes out is that I just got it texted to me is that what about for this individual said, for those on Instant Messenger, is that wonder if I'm a 3-man, I'm a small shop, myself and 3 people. I've got 6 months worth of savings set aside to keep my business alive, but keeping people alive and employed right now is going to be tough to secure my own future. What do you suggest?
That's where
I'd be on that triple P in a heartbeat.
Yep.
Amen.
Yep. Get on it right now.
100% loan relief, right? This is free money that covers you for 2.5 months at your current salary line. And then, that person was smart enough to have money set aside. So that is going to be more than enough to see them, well into the recovery phase of this, more than likely.
Yep.
And then this guy named Kyle, I don't know if Michael or Kris, I don't know if you guys know this guy, but, he made a really great statement is learn one new thing a day. Doesn't matter what it is. I live by this, just my 2 cents. I love that.
Honestly, this is something that is has been so big in my life. I am a serial hobbyist. I always want to be trying something new. And I think more people need to be willing to be beginners at something because there is nothing like the high of being a beginner and learning a new skill. That is so much fun. And it's such a great productive way to spend your time than just scrolling through this thing.
Hey, check this out. Not only learning a new skill, I'm pretty old at this. And every day that I post these, what's funny is every day I host these shows, I've got a page or 2 of notes. It's like, wow, So if 30 plus years into the industry in entrepreneurship and I can take 2 pages of notes, if you don't have 2 pages of notes, there's something wrong with you when you have all this knowledge that's going around, right now that's opened up to us. It's amazing. So Kris,
listen, I have oil pastels on my desk right now because I'm trying to learn how to use these to make art.
In the military, you can't give those over to us because we'll eat them. Especially Marines. Marines eat crayons really quick, so you got to be really careful. Now is the time to reach out to people because we are apart doesn't mean that we aren't together. Is that cool or what?
Yep.
And then Andrew asked about, hey, Andrew, explore with these guys. Go out and explore their software. They're making an offer there. I think it's really cool. So, Steve Adelman, welcome. Let's go down through and just make sure. I think that's pretty much it. Ricardo out of Utah adds that it's important to work on our weaknesses. Work on your personality. Work on being more secure in my decisions and more secure in my life. I mean, is that magical or what? I just think it's just great. I think it's wonderful. So
Yeah, Renny, that's an interesting question, the statement. You know, when I look at working on my weaknesses, usually the way I view it is I usually need help on that weakness, right? And so I think it's better to work on your strengths and really leverage those strengths, because that is your natural gift. That's the gift God gave you to thrive and to bless other people. And then those areas that are weaknesses, leverage the people in your network, in your family. I mean, Rod is the squeaky wheel in our business. That is not my strength. It is my weakness. But Rod is that guy. And so together we become stronger. So I think a lot of times we focus so much on our weaknesses when we can leverage and build on our strengths to really explode us.
I love it. So, one last question. I got to go because I got to get on another show. Is that what's the sentiment right now? This is Prentice out of San Diego asked, what's the sentiment about selling gift cards and certificates? Should they be sold at a discount right now?
No.
Why?
I don't think so. I think the value is the value of what your product is. And that's the whole purpose of a gift card, right? It's like, I'm going to give you a gift. It's helping you as a business, but it's also allowing the consumer to do something for somebody else. But that, I know a lot of people want a discount, but I think a lot of times it's easy to go into discount mode when you don't really need to.
The other thing,
depends.
Cautious when you do that.
Yeah, I think it depends on how you're offering them. But the other thing about it is usually gift cards are done at an increment of dollar of the person that's purchasing them. So if somebody wants to buy a $50 gift card, let them buy a $50 gift card. If they're purchasing a specific service, you may have discounted that service right now, and then it would be a good opportunity to say, hey, right now we have a 10% discount on a full detail. We'll sell you a gift card at that 10% discount, and you can use it the next year. But I think it's an individual thing that you have to look at. I don't think there's any blanket statements we can say for the whole industry.
Right.
My 2 cents as a marketer is that community building is the most important thing right now. If you can help. If that doesn't necessarily mean a discount, if there's a way for you to help your community, that will pay dividends in the long run.
Yep.
Oh, I agree with that too, 100%.
Yeah, and I think something that came out about a year and a half ago, maybe, Renny, is something that we need to, it really is relevant right now, is this. Detail industry needs to be strong right now. We need to pull together and be an industry and not just a bunch of ragtag individuals trying to beat each other up.
Well, I'll tell you, and I think it's a great way to end that with that is I think a lot of eyes are on us right now. You've got different, what's SEMA thinking about what just went down in our industry? I've been pushing for our industry to be a closer net and interaction with SEMA. I think if I was them, I'd be a little spooked of the detailing industry right now.
Yeah.
This is what come down is that I've been watching other industries big within SEMA, and they just haven't had the amount of decay that we have. And so I think as leaders is that we can take that underneath our belts to help people along and better this industry. And I think events like today and so forth, Michael, what you're doing with other groups and so forth, I think that's all playing into this. And I think we are all here free of charge. This time is away from our families. This time is away from our businesses. While we're not conducting normal business, these men and women just shared with you right now that they're busy forecasting, building, getting ready. But part of it is what we are all doing is giving back. And so I think that you can't just, again, I have this saying is you can't just take and withdraw from your community and withdraw from your industry. You got to put deposits back in too. And so I think that that's being done on the top levels. I sure would like to see it go all the way through and through osmosis come down to the bottom, the lower levels, and the detailers start giving to each other a little more and stop giving crap to each other. So, Hey, with that, I'm going to get off onto this next one, the Rad Company. If you can join us, I'll be over with them here momentarily. With that, Jody, thank you. Michael, thank you. Kris, thank you. Matt, thank you. Rod, Tightwad Rod, thank you so much. If any of you want to reach out to him, please do. We'll be putting the recording up. And thank you so much for being a part of this, for all the great interactions. Certainly appreciate it. good health, safety to you, and take the weekend off. Do something fun. That's what all of you that are watching too. Check out the social media. Check out the news. Not a lot's going to change over the next couple days. Hunker down, stay away from each other, and enjoy some life. So take care, everybody.
Thanks, Renny.
Thanks, you too,
Thank
Renny.
you, Renny.
Thank you,
Yeah.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Chris, Matt, Michael.
See ya, Matt.
See you guys.
See ya.